Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, welcome to the show. That catch you off guard a little bit there, Megan?
I just can't figure out how to hold the camera to make it look less weird.
Megan and I are riding the struggle bus separately but together in very different parts of the world. We're fighting Wi-Fi issues. We're fighting cameras not working. We're fighting all kinds of stuff. But hey, this is a hockey podcast, so that means we fight through it, right?
100%. It feels like a FaceTime.
It's exactly, yeah, and just FaceTiming with our buddies.
Friends.
How's it going? You also are not in Colorado.
Yes, it was pretty funny. I am in Puerto Rico with family for Thanksgiving, got here a little early, and I was in an airport. My flight was delayed in Florida while they were playing the Florida Panthers. So I felt so close, but so far away.
Yes, right there. Megan, they've had a good trip here. We've kind of talked throughout. You know, we've had a couple shows. We chatted with Chloe. It's been a really, really good trip for this Avs team. 3-0. Like when we talked a couple days ago, you know, we had all said, man, these last couple games in Florida are going to be the toughest challenges. Specifically, the fact the Avs have struggled so much against the Panthers. And really, I thought that was one of their better games in a while. I thought they looked really good. And I think this trip has felt very I don't know if you watched, but one of the comments we got the other day was just, we back? And you know, for the post game, and it feels that way a little bit.
It does. In previewing the rest of this road trip with Chloe that Friday, there wasn't full expectation that they needed to go and blow the doors off of both Florida and Tampa, because this has been a pretty challenging road trip as it is, with a great Washington team ahead of it all. So for them to have stood up to the reigning Stanley Cup champions, second in the Atlantic right now, a team that's playing very well in their title defense season, and win 7-4, getting goals from all over the score sheet. Depth scoring finally steps up. Not even a great goaltending game necessarily. It says a lot about the team in front of the goaltending. Kind of what we've come to expect from this Avs team too is, regardless of what's happening in net, they are capable of playing so much better than I think we'd seen quite yet. And it was bigger than the headliners in that Florida game. And they had a bad first period, and they came out, and another great second period from this team, which I think says a lot about their resilience too, to be able to implement changes. It was so necessary in that Florida game. And I think it was really a character game that shows a little bit more of this team's mettle and what they're made of. And it was really exciting. I hope that they're wearing that with a lot of pride to carry into this Tampa game. You know, why not try to go for a perfect record on this road trip?
I talked to Josh Manson this morning after morning skate. You know, he and I had talked a couple weeks ago once they were starting to get a lot of those injured guys back. And, you know, I was asking him about, you know, getting guys back from injury and how nice is it? And, you know, playing without those guys. And he made a comment to me that I thought was just so interesting. He goes, you know, everything that we do is work ethic based. Doesn't matter who's in the lineup. Doesn't matter if it's new players, old players, players that were injured. You know, guys like Valentin who missed 6 months, whatever. We're focused on how hard we work and the effort and this, that, and the other. And when I talked to him this morning, I said, does it feel a little bit like that's what is propelling this trip? And even, you know, the game that you just talked about there, Megan, in Florida, is just these guys are just working and they're just outworking their opponents. And, you know, that was a little bit of what I felt like I saw in Fort Lauderdale, or, you know, in Sunrise, Florida a couple of days ago, was they just outworked the Panthers the longer that game went on. And this team is so talented that when they're doing that, you see the results that come with it.
Even in a flawed game where the Avs don't play a perfect full 60 minutes, that Mikko Rantanen goal in the second period, the 5-man passing play clinic, was such a reflection of how on this team is right now, because I loved your interview with Parker Kelly and talking about some of the benefits of playing with the same guys night in, night out, being able to build chemistry and familiarity. I think that's true of the 5-man unit as well. And I think that that group of 5, all familiar with playing one another, there is the benefit then of some of these faces that have played and have won together before. And I think that is the result of it. I think that's why, too, getting Shillington, for example, in games on the back end is so important, because it's not just important for Shillington, but how the back end supports the forward lines is, I think, so much a part of their success. And getting a bit of a rhythm there is why a play like that Mikko Rantanen goal with the defenseman, I believe it was Gerard and Taves on that play, stepping up in that way, they're so much better when they're working together. And it definitely is a work ethic thing too. There has to be a willingness for everybody to do their job completely and fully, because if you cut any sort of corner, you expose the entirety of that 5-man unit. And that's what I think was done so well, particularly in that second period in the Florida game.
Yeah. Well, let's just kind of keep expanding on that a little bit here and talk about what they are going up against here tonight in Tampa. I do want to remind you guys that we are here bringing you guys all this great coverage on the road, thanks to our great friends over at Landmark Lincoln. Head to landmarklincoln.com. Stop in and see them off Broadway. Amazing holiday incentives going on right now. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Corsair GT plug-in hybrid. Check out the amazing tax incentives they've got going if you are in the market right now. More on Landmark Lincoln later. But Megan, you mentioned it, like they're looking to close out this road trip. They're trying to come home with 8 out of 8 points. I said a couple nights ago or a couple days ago, I guess, I felt like they would probably split these games against the 2 Florida teams. But the Avs are definitely going to be looking to get even tonight against the Bolts. The Lightning kind of came into Denver a few weeks ago and clowned these guys a little bit. And that was definitely top of a conversation in the locker room and with Jared Bednar this morning of, we don't want a repeat of that. We know what we didn't do well a couple of weeks ago against these guys, and we want to, like I said, get a little bit of revenge for that. Your thoughts on what to expect here tonight?
I think I'm getting greedy, and I believe this is a game that the Avs are capable of winning, but there are things that they need to be careful of. Tampa is 5th in the Atlantic, and we're getting close to that Thanksgiving timeline where it says a lot about your playoff projections based on where the team is at right now. So Tampa, having lost the last 2 and having some of their stars, Kucherov kept off the score sheet's been really led by Anthony Cirelli in that second line. I've always loved the way that line works, but they lose 2-4 against Dallas, a game where they would need some of that star power to show up offensively. These last couple of games, the one before it was a huge OT loss to Columbus, tons of goal scoring on either side, but still the Stars have been kept off the score sheet in Tampa, just to be clear. And so I think they're going to be hungry to get back into it. And because they played so well against Colorado very recently, I think there's that sense of, we can do this, we can beat these guys, we want to get back in the win column and string together some points before the Thanksgiving holiday. They've had decent goal scoring, and Kucherov, though outside of these last couple of games, has been producing at the clip that we expect him to. And so there are things to be careful of on the Tampa Bay side that they don't want to get too laid back. They don't want to rest on their laurels, so to speak. But because the Avs got so much depth scoring and their stars have been playing well, Mikko Rantanen's been racking up points like it's nobody's business. 3rd in the league overall, I believe, 11 points in his last 5 games, including a Mikko Rantanen hat trick in there, of course. There's every reason then for the Avs to be able to match that. But again, they can't rest on the laurels, and it's a big, I'm assuming, is it Justus Annunen going tonight?
It is, yep.
It's a big game for him. Georgiev has played pretty well on this road trip, maybe not a perfect showing in that Florida game. And so Justus Annunen, we've kind of talked about how this starting goaltender conversation might not ever really be solidified in this regular season, so long as Justus Annunen has games where he sort of yanks the net back a little bit more in his direction. And so he has to continue to do that so that it doesn't run away with Georgiev as the starter. It's important for him.
3 games last week for Mikko Rantanen, all on this road trip. 2 goals, 7 points. He was the NHL's 2nd star of the week. So you are spot on, Megan. He's driving the bus offensively on this trip for sure. Let's pause really fast on this game for Justus Annunen, because Jared Bednar did tell us after morning skate that he said, look, in the first 10-game segment, Justus Annunen played well. Alexander Georgiev struggled. In the second 10-game segment, those roles flipped. Georgiev looked good. Annunen struggled. And he told us he wants to try to get these guys in more of a regular rhythm and not – he said, I want to see if I can get both guys going here in this last 10-game segment. So it's something that's on Jared Bednar's radar. He told us this morning, Justus Annunen did not play well for the last 10 games. In that last 10-game chunk, he did not feel like Justus's game was up to where it needed to be. Man, they're just still in such a weird spot with the goaltending. But I guess your thoughts on him wanting to spread the time around a little bit more, because I agree. I think this is a big game for Annunen to earn some of those minutes and bounce back from that last 10-game stretch.
I think if we're having the conversation around goaltending and Georgiev is the clear-cut starter, something has actually gone wrong. I think that Georgiev should be the starter in terms of just playing well, high skill upside, more experience than Justus Annunen, but there has to be trust in Annunen as the backup. And that's why these games are important. I like the balanced workload. I think that it's a better showing for Annunen to get some more games, some more viewings then, so that the Avs know what they have in him as a backup, should they have to call upon him. Because with Georgiev, it's never so much a skill issue as much as it is a trust issue. And so that trust issue, good performances aren't necessarily going to fix that. There is still that trauma of not knowing if he falls apart. You want to have trust then in the goaltender behind him. And that's why I think it's important for Annunen not only to get these games a little bit more regularly, but against good competition. He's played great against the Chicago Blackhawks. I want to see Annunen play great against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I want to see him get some more of these starts, though Georgiev should get the nod ahead of him. That's what I'm looking forward to in him getting this game specifically. It's not the Chicago Blackhawks of the world, and so it's going to be an even bigger test for him.
I like a lot the call out of the fact that there is the inconsistency factor with Alexander Georgiev. It's I won't even use the word trust. Just you still just don't feel like you 100% know what you're going to get on any given night. And I think having that confidence in having a goaltender that you can go to off the bench. My phone started ringing. Sorry. I think that's maybe a bigger piece of this that we haven't really dove into yet this season, Meghan. Of it's not even about who's going to play better. It's just, man, when one's not going, do you have the confidence in the other? And that's the part that I feel like is lacked a little bit. And it's an interesting point of like maybe that's the other motivation behind wanting to get these guys in more reps is I want to feel comfortable that if guy A isn't going, guy B might be. And right now it just feels like so much of a roll of the dice. You want to see that consistency. And it was part of the reason why I like the fact that Annunen is going tonight of exactly what you were talking about. This is a good team with a lot of firepower, with guys that can hurt you if you're not paying attention to where they are. And like the Avs, regardless of what type of effort the rest of the team comes out with tonight, like you're going to need some big saves at some point. Even if the Avs come out, jump on the bolts early and are good, there is going to be a push, whether it be a power play or whatever, from the Lightning where you're going to need and want Annunen to come up with some big saves. I thought that was what Georgiev did against the Panthers. Yes, he gave up 4 goals, but there were 3 plays in particular between the second and third period where Georgiev had to come up with big saves to keep his team in the position they were in. And I imagine Annunen's going to have to do that tonight as well. Whether the Avs are in the lead or they're trying to climb back into a game, they're going to need Justus to make some big saves against a good team. And so I'm with you. You want to see him be able to play at the level that we've seen him against the Anaheim Ducks and the Chicago Blackhawks, against some of these teams that if he wants to earn that net, he's going to have to beat.
100%, because Georgiev would love to be able to just take all the starts that he can. I want Annunen to challenge him a little bit. I want both goaltenders to have strong outings, but I want Onanen to keep his name in this goaltending conversation for as long as he can.
Yeah. Let's move to a different part of the lineup that's seen some movement. The defense. Jared Bednar also told us this morning that, because, we asked about Oliver Shillington, who I think has these last 3 games, the last 2 in particular, these have been the games where it's like, oh, that's what they saw. That's why they brought this guy in, halfway through the summer, things like, he's looked really good. And I asked Jared, how do you balance making sure that you're rewarding a guy like Oliver Shillington who's playing really well, while also not letting John Ludwig and Calvin DeHaan sit on the shelf for too long? And he said that this was actually part of the plan. He let the defensemen know, including Oliver Shillington, Shilly's going to get a handful of games here. Like, we're putting him in for a handful of games, regardless of what kind of happens. So this sounds like something that was a little bit pre-planned, and it seems like it's paying off a little bit. Meghan, your thoughts on that type of philosophy and Jared Bednar going to Calvin DeHaan and John Ludwig and saying, hey, you guys are going to sit for a few games. We want to see what we've got over here.
Well, I think it was important and says a lot about Bednar as a coach that he got in front of it, talked to his players. It's good, too, to get the clarity around DeHaan, a player that has sometimes missed games for maintenance reasons throughout the year, to learn he is healthy. This is all just a part of a different plan to get Shillington in games. I think it's ultimately so beneficial to Shillington, who we've discussed has not started on the right foot here in Colorado, between his equipment not showing up and then illness, and then the first couple opportunities that he had, he just didn't look comfortable playing in the S system. He looked confused. It looks like he has shed a lot of that confusion, and I do think that there is a huge morale boost to be said for getting consistent games and knowing that you're going to get them and you're not one mistake away from being yanked out of the lineup.
Yes.
I think that gives you some confidence to open up your game a little bit more. I think back to what brought him success in Calgary when he played alongside Tanev, and it was playing alongside such a defensively responsible player that helped to open up the game for him. He talked about how that kind of made him less afraid to make mistakes and also made him more responsible. And so I think this is very specifically tailored to Shillington as a player, too, to approach it in this way by guaranteeing him games and kind of opening up that game again for him in a slightly different way than Tanev in Calgary. But I think we're seeing the result of that. I loved what he did in the Florida game. Springs the Logan O'Connor goal with a stretch pass, and then on his own goal, a stretch pass outlet to Mikko Rantanen to get that entry, and he sneaks into the slot. The players are drawing the attention of Florida way to the right side of the ice, and Shillington just sort of sneaks into the slot available for a pass from Nichushkin. I think because maybe other guys on the ice underestimated him, but that's what we've been told. That's what we've been told about Shillington, his ability to move the puck up ice specifically. And I think that, playing opposite of Malinski, a player who also likes to play that way and sees the game in a very similar fashion, has been also very helpful and complementary to Shillington. I think it's helped to build his confidence, and it's shown in these last couple of games. And I am happy for him. You look at the goal celebration when he does score his own, that is a happy person. I love to see that kind of joy. It's so authentic, and you just can't help but smile looking at it, too. I don't mean to key in on Shillington specifically. It's a little crowded on the back end, but I'm just so happy that, at least for right now, they have a plan in place to get all of these guys in games, and I think that it was extremely helpful for Shillington.
Well, and what you said there is one of the things that Jared Bednar told us, was that one of the reasons why he told Shillington ahead of time, hey, you're going to get a few games in a row here, was because he said, I didn't want him to think that his minutes were about to be determined based on if he had a good shift or a bad shift. Did you make a turnover? Oh, you're out of the lineup. He didn't want him to think that one mistake was going to sink him. And truthfully, Meghan, when he said that, the thought that went through my head was, yeah, that's how Oliver Shillington has looked. Oliver Shillington, to me, has looked like he's afraid to make a mistake. And as you and I talk about all the time, it's when players start playing like that you make the most mistakes. And he looked to me like someone who was worried that he wasn't going to get any more playing time. Oh man, am I going to get traded? Am I going to get waived? And gripping the stick too tight. Even in the couple games he played it forward, just looked really ineffective, like he was maybe being overly cautious of what he was doing and was taking an extra second, which was leading to worse mistakes. He was falling down. And that to me looked like a player that, in addition to your point of him not being comfortable, just didn't look confident in his own abilities, and that making a mistake was going to be, a death sentence for him. And I think you're right. Like, I think saying you're playing this whole road trip. I don't know exactly what it was, but you're playing this whole road trip. Okay, go play your game. Just go do what has made you successful at this level. And if you mess up, that's okay. You'll be back in the lineup tomorrow and you can make up for it. And I think he's played well enough that you haven't had to have that kind of conversation of make up for it, because he just looks steadily more confident, steadily more comfortable. And it's made a really big difference for him. And again, I think in that last game, you saw what they saw in him and why they were interested in Oliver Kylington as a player, and why he can make this team better. Any other thoughts on defense? I guess let's just real quick from Brooke. How do you feel about his defensive decision-making in the last two games? Meghan, you called out a handful of great stretch passes, getting activated in offensive zone. What do you think of Kylington in his own end?
I think back to the Philadelphia game. He had a turnover early in that game. And then after that, I thought he has really settled into his defensive game and taking care of things in his own end. And I actually think, in reflecting on some of the numbers we've been digging into, Sam Malinski's been one of their best defensive players. In thinking of what brought Kylington's success in Calgary being paired alongside one of their best defensive players, I think that is also a small part of this conversation too. I think Kylington has made much fewer mistakes. He looks so much more calm and intentional in the decision-making in his own end. And I think that he has been made more solid playing alongside another defensively responsible player, Malinski. So I have no complaints. Obviously, I need to see more to really evaluate that side of his game, but I think it's exactly where I need it to be right now. He looks so much more comfortable.
So just real quick, I wasn't originally going to talk about this until you just called out Sam Malinski, but our good buddy Corey Masisak from the Denver Post asked Jared Bednar about Sam Malinski, and I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember exactly how Corey said it. Head on over to Guerilla Sports Twitter or our YouTube channel to see Jared Bednar's full availability from this morning, so you can hear it verbatim, not just me repeating it based on what I remember. But Corey essentially asked him, like, all right, you got four guys, going into training camp, there was four guys at the bottom of the lineup. Suddenly this rotation, Sam Malinski doesn't seem to be part of it anymore. He's just kind of a fixture of the lineup at this point. And Jared Bednar called out exactly what you were just calling out, Meghan, of like, yeah, his numbers are just on a little bit of a different level than the rest of those guys. Like, analytically and with what the eye test is telling you, Sam Malinski has just played a level above these three guys that are rotating in and out. Not to say that Calvin DeHaan, Oliver Kylington, or John Ludwig have been, horrible. That's not what he's saying. But just, yes, Sam Malinski kind of separated himself from the rest of that group. And just to hear you, kind of come in behind that and back up with, digging into the numbers. Not only has he been good, he's been one of their best defensive defensemen. Again, it's just an interesting little storyline that's maybe slid under the radar a little bit, that going into training camp, I was like, oh man, Sam Malinski's going to jump all these guys. Well, not only has he jumped them, he's kind of separated himself from them.
Yeah, I don't want to get too carried away, but from what he's shown and as quickly as he has shown it, I think that there is top four upside in Malinski's future. I'm so excited for what he's done in such a small window of opportunity of time that I think it speaks to his future trajectory, that he is able to pick up and see the game so intelligently, so quickly, because again, he's not just responsible in his own end. What he flashes offensively, to include his willingness to just shoot the puck, it's not just that willingness though. It gets on target every time. It creates valuable rebound chances. He is able to get that puck to the net front. So the line of vision to be able to find those lanes from out high. He's just such a smart player. I'm excited for what his future holds.
I really do, Megan. You and I talk about it frequently in the press box. Cale Makar is in a universe of his own, but I really do see shades of Cale Makar in the way that Sam Malinski plays, just in the way he skates and the way he just kind of carries himself on the ice. I definitely see a little bit of a Makar light in Sam Malinski here. Just real quick, this one here from Bobby Ballantyne. Have you heard rumblings that they're icing Shillington to get some good film / trade value up before finalizing a move? No, I haven't heard anything like that. But look, I'm not going to say this about Shillington or DeHaan or Ludwig. When you're starting to do the math and the numbers, and especially if you are at any point trying to fit Gabe Landeskog back into any of these conversations, or even when Ross Colton comes back, look. When you have a surplus in one area, a move like that is always on the table. So I don't think that they are necessarily playing Shillington so that they can get, so that they can shop him. But I also think it'd be a little bit naive of us to think that that wasn't like, well, when he was playing the way that he was playing, there was really nothing that you could do. You know what I mean? Like your only option was to waive him. So again, I don't think that's the purpose for why they're doing it. But it never hurts to have players when you have a surplus in one area to come in, get some quality reps. Are you in a construction zone?
They're doing something right outside the window. But
You're good,
I
you're
agree
good.
with what you just said. I don't think it's the express purpose. I haven't heard any rumblings of that specifically. But to your point, they're crowded on the back end. They're going to have to make some decisions.
They've got some work to do, similar to what's going on there. Well, Megan, like I said, we're fighting Wi-Fi and now drills and all kinds of stuff. But let's kind of wrap this one up here. Near the 30-minute mark. Your thoughts on Megan is actively being robbed?
I have a say in this.
I have a say. Your thoughts on tonight, what I'm not going to pin you down to a prediction, but just what you think we're going to see from this Avs team tonight. It's a busy week. Like, the NHL does not care about Thanksgiving. The Avs are here tonight. They got a game against Vegas on Wednesday. You're off for the holiday, but then right back at it with a back-to-back Friday and Saturday. So it's a game-heavy week for them. What do you expect to see from them tonight? Do you think they really prioritize trying to get a big push here to come home with a clean record, and then you deal with the busyness of the week as you get there? What do you expect for tonight?
I do think it's important not to get too hung up on the games ahead from this point on. Focus on the game at hand, especially because it's a pride component. They should be looking at this as, well, I don't know that anyone is expecting us to win this game. It's the opposite of a must-win game, so why not go out and give our best? I'm looking for them to then play with pride and start this game better. Start it better in front of Eustace in that first period. Really support him as best they can. And let's try to fix what's ever going wrong in these first periods that requires all those adjustments being made in the monster second periods that they've been having. Spread out the workload throughout the full 60 then. Don't make that 20 minutes in the second period the most important of the game. That's a lot of pressure, a lot of intensity. I don't mind intensity, but I'd like to see them kind of level it out and distribute it around the whole game by having a good start. So I'm really looking for that.
That's so funny, Megan, because even on this trip, they're 3-0, but the starts still have not been great in any of these games. They've had to kind of claw back into each one. Philly, gosh, it was over a week ago now at this point, but Philly maybe less so than the other teams, like Washington, not a good start. Florida, not a good start. I like what you just said there. Make it a little bit easier on yourself by kind of spreading that out throughout the game, so you're not constantly having to fight back. It doesn't feel like we've really just seen them have one of those games where they come out, good start, get out to a lead, build on it, and then put things away, And I'd like to see them it doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, but you want to see them start working towards a game like that. Of just you're never going to be perfect, but just solid from start to finish. This is one thing that is very for real. And I know we got a couple people here just kind of being tongue in cheek with it, Georgie letting in the first one. But like all jokes aside, Eustace has been guilty of this. Georgie has been guilty of this. I haven't actually gone through and added up the numbers, but it has probably been 4 or 5 times this season the Avs goaltenders have given up the first shot on goal. That's another part of it too. Yes, the Avs need to clean up the starts. But, I mentioned earlier, you're going to need a save or two from Annunen as this game goes on. But how about a save or two from Annunen when the game starts? How about that? Like, that would also be very helpful.
I think so too, because I see it in Georgiev in this last game. After that first one, he did seem to start seeing the puck a little bit better. Obviously, it ends up a 4-goal against game, so there's arguments to be made for each goal by goal, though. Like, one of them was super fluky off his back. But to your point, both goaltenders, they're both capable of tracking that puck because you see them lock in later in the game following the first goal. I'd like to see them solve what they're doing to lock in after that first goal before allowing it. I know it's probably easier said than done, but I think there is a mental component of starting the game on time for the goaltenders as well. And I'd like to see them separate their game from whatever the team is deciding to do in front of them, because the team hasn't always been great in front of them in the first period too. I want them to try and separate and just build confidence in their own game to be able to start locking in as soon as the puck drops.
Well, and we'll end it here, but to your point, Megan, because sure, you can make some arguments about what Brendan is saying here with, maybe there have been some defensive breakdowns, or like you said, they haven't played, but the goaltenders need to be able to separate themselves from that to an extent. And vice versa. We heard, I can't remember who it was, when you and I were talking in the locker room last week, and they were like, we can't really adjust our game based on who the goalie is, how they're playing, whatever.
Right.
We've got to do, we've got to play within ourselves and within our system. Goaltenders got to do the same. Okay, maybe there was a bad breakdown, but like that first shot against in Florida, that is not a product of a bad defensive breakdown. That's one where it's like, you got to start the game on time. You got to track that puck down better.
100%. It was a play behind the net, 3 bodies in front of him, but it wasn't that far. I would have liked to see him track the puck better, and he did following that. So it's shared blame a little bit on both sides.
For sure. Megan, let's jump out of here for today. We won't have a show tomorrow. We'll be back at it Wednesday, a Megan-less show on Wednesday, but I should have a guest in the studio with me tomorrow. I'll be traveling back tomorrow right when our show would be supposed to be going live. So internet spotty here. Not going to try to do it from the airplane. We'll be back with another episode of Off Ice on Wednesday, and then regularly scheduled on Friday as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, big thanks to our great partners over at Landmark Lincoln. Check them out, landmarklincoln.com, or stop in there off Broadway if you are local in Denver. Check out their full inventory and see if you can qualify for no payments for up to 90 days, especially this time of year. Everybody could use a little bit of reprieve on their car payments. Make sure to check them out, landmarklincoln.com, the all-new 2024 Lincoln Corsair GT plug-in hybrid. She is Megan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. This is Guerilla Sports Off Ice. Thank you guys so much, and we will talk to you tomorrow. See you later.